Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
Little balls this week. Good job.
Good pick. Good pick.
Good pick. Old balls.
He's got a lot of them. 71 of them. I'm sorry, 79. He's got 79 old balls.
He's got 79 old balls. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Locker Room. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, are RadioPete and Harry Lug Nutz. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
We're actually not going to jump right into to football. We're going to jump right into baseball tonight because last night the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Tampa Bay Rays in Game 6 of this year's World Series, and it's an interesting story, and we're going to get to why right now. Why don't we start with Pete? Why don't you give me your take on Mr. Snell's performance?
Oh, it was really, really good.
So you thought it was good, right? You thought he should have stayed in the game?
I think he was pitching pretty well. He gave up, I think it was 2 hits, including the one right before they yanked him. He had 9 strikeouts. He was mowing them down.
73 pitches, I think, at that point.
73 pitches, and unfortunately, analytics happened to get in the way. And I posted immediately that I hope the Dodgers win immediately after he was yanked, and that Mr. Cash is a moron. And so I wished ill upon the Rays, who I had been previously rooting for before that idiotic move.
73 pitches, though, but on not the normal day's rest with a bullpen that has been pretty darn good. And let's be honest, they lost by giving up 3 runs, and you should be able to win, a game where your pitching gives up 3 runs, but they didn't. And
it wasn't like Clayton Kershaw was pitching.
No, and I'm not arguing with the numbers. I'm not arguing with the theory behind
it. I agree with you, by the way. I think they should have let him at least go at least 2 or 3 more batters.
Yeah. They brought in Anderson, who I think I heard he gave up a run in like each of his last 4 performances or something outrageous like that. So he's slightly better than Aroldis Chapman. Yeah, slightly. Well, he didn't give up home runs in every one of those.
He didn't lose the season for the Yankees exactly. 2 years in a row. Yeah.
But he had not been as lights out as he had been over the course of the regular season and in the early part of the playoffs. Right. And so I don't disagree with any of the analytics and what they say, but what I disagree with is this is an elimination game and the guy's cruising. And I know everything, third time through the batter, and you look and it's a 12 point something ERA all that is fine. But and I think we've kind of talked about this, if you're really just going to completely remove any sort of human element from the game, that's just a mistake, I think. And it's going to make me not want to watch.
Where was the gut check as opposed to the analytics?
And it's not like, he gave up a run and he struggled in the third he
was looking good.
The guy was cruising. I mean, the definition of cruising. And they go, you gave up a hit coming up on the third time. Thanks. And you could see it on his face. He was disgusted and everybody was disgusted by it.
I thought I heard him say a few choice words there, when they zoomed in on him as
he was not happy.
He was walking out. He was not happy.
I'm glad to see pitchers who don't want to come out of the game anymore and who realize they can pitch more than 5 innings.
Right.
And I think that's most of them too.
Yeah, maybe not. I think a lot of them are specialists now. And I think if you look at, the Dodgers are a prime example, so is Tampa Bay. They have guys who can come in. They can come in the 4th inning. They can come in and close the game out. And I think the series was really about who had as all World Series are, as I've been saying my whole life, whoever has the most arms on hand wins. And it was never more obvious than this year when everybody's pitching. A lot of times, what was there, 2 days off in this whole World Series?
Yeah, Thursday and Monday, just for football, because of football. That was
how it should. It's I think that's how it should have been.
I don't really. Well,
only because there wasn't travel.
Normally, you would have the travel days,
right? There's no need for it if there's no travel, for that extra day.
And that's fine if they change that going forward, but that's going to totally change Major League Baseball even more so where you're just going to see it's just going to be whoever happens to have 7 arms that can get you through 9 innings.
But also, if you just do, if you have all these guys that go 5 or maybe 5 1/3, and that's all they do all year, you're going to transform them into pitchers that can't go 7 or 8 or 9 anymore.
Well, nobody can,
because they just haven't done
nobody
it.
can, and the ones that can aren't allowed to because and look, there has been, I call this the Kawhi Leonard effect, who I happen to think is one of the top 3 basketball players in the league right now.
Right.
There is something to be said about the way in which athletes are today, which you have to look at the long haul and what their bodies are able to do. This isn't Don Drysdale pitching, that game doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, because I'd much rather see a guy go 7 innings and then have 2 relievers and not have this bombardment of pitchers coming in.
Absolutely. I would too.
I'll say this. This was a good, and this was one of the better Major League playoffs I've watched in a long time. Now, I said this would go 7, and I said the Rays had a good chance, and it was pretty close to going 7.
It was pretty close. Somebody else said it was going to go 6, though. But,
yeah, and I think if the Rays just had a couple hits last night, they would have won that game, and we wouldn't be talking about pulling the pitcher. They just could not get guys on base to home plate.
Look, it's not
ultimately. So go ahead.
I was going to say it's not a given that Blake Snell would have not given up those runs and that the Rays would have won the game. But I think that all in all, they stood a better chance of leaving him in the game than yanking him at that particular point.
And
hindsight's 20/20. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and you can't argue with it because look, pitchers are dominating in the playoffs this year, with the exception that they give up a ton of home runs. That's what baseball has become. It's become there's not a lot of small ball. There's not a lot of pitching with the bases loaded. There's not a lot of even intentional walks. It's outs, a lot of three and out innings, and then bam, somebody launches one into the upper deck. It's just the way the game is. Having said that, seeing Tampa, good for the Dodgers. I mean, look, I guess it's a good month for LA. They had the best lineup, and Kershaw showed up and did what he was supposed to do, and they backed him up. And that reliever, whose name is escaping right now, who has, I think I have more hair on my right arm than he does on his entire beard that he's sporting. But he was lights out. And that's what it takes. Timely hitting, usually from guys that you don't expect down the lineup, and a hot reliever or middle relief and pitcher. And that's usually what wins your World Series. And the Dodgers had all of that.
Yeah.
And there were also a couple of the line drive that kind of almost got caught in the webbing or whatever it was protecting the stands. Had that kind of bounced out of into fair territory, that would have been probably one less base. You wouldn't have had a runner on third, and then you had the pass ball.
Right.
So there was this comedy of this cascade of things falling apart.
I can't remember what game it was, but the Rays were an inch away from catching that line drive that drove in, wound up becoming the game-winning runs. It was a good series. The Dodgers were a better team. They should have won.
The Dodgers were a better team. Yeah, the Game 4 finish was, a cavalcade of errors there. So, and I think you're to your larger point, you can't just score one run, and really you shouldn't expect to win too many games 1-0. Not in the World Series anyway.
Not in the World Series.
Everybody who's playing is just.
You shouldn't expect to win a game 1-0 all season long. You're gonna, but you shouldn't expect it all
Not
season
anymore.
long.
I mean, you just don't see it very much. Yeah. But you do see how, as the playoffs sort of shrunk from round 9 to round, from the first of 9 rounds, where,
Well, let's see. There were 7 best of 5s, right? No, 4 best of 3s.
It was Mawa High got into the first round against the Astros, and.
And there was that Little League team from Taiwan.
That's right.
How they got
Taiwan beat Tom's River West.
Right. Yeah. And the Cuban Little League team actually had older players than the guys who were on the Dodgers. But.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, some of those guys were coaches from the
Rolando Molino All-Stars were in there.
From the minor leagues, It was an interesting playoff.
Right. Here's my ending comment on the World Series and on sports in general. If you're going to wear a mask, it has to go over your nose. You can't make it a chin diaper. So if you're not going to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you're going to wear it, put it over your nose. I just it just drives me nuts watching these guys with these chin diapers around their face for the whole game. It's just.
I think that if it's anywhere on their face, it's all right. Well, I got it. It's here.
It's like a ball, you know.
Right. You could say it's better than nothing, but
their chins stay clean. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't drool as much, I guess.
I don't. It's defeating the purpose. That's for certain.
Science aside, it's just ridiculous to look at.
Science,
I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to make. I'm just saying, it's
science has little to do with baseball.
You're going to wear a bra to the beach.
On that note,
put it on you and not around your waist.
Right. On that note, that science has little to do with baseball. I think that's our point specifically on this analytics question here. I mean, it's mathematics, but it's still a science, if you will. So,
yeah.
But and that comment we made before, that you should never expect to win a 1-0 game, even in the regular season. Just ask Jake DeGrom; he'll tell you all about that.
Yeah, he would have had 3 20-game seasons had the Mets been able to just score one run. If they scored 2, then forget it. Then he could have. They could have. Yeah, then they could have taken him out in the 8th inning every once in a while.
Exactly. Analytics is a useful tool, but there's a human element to this game.
And take the analytics and the human element, blend them together, shake it up, pour it out of the bag, and what comes out, that's what you do.
Yeah. I mean, analytics is great for taking an Oakland A's team into second place every year.
Yeah.
It's not great for winning a World Series. And Aaron Boone's an analytic guy. Joe Torre went by his gut and asked Don Zimmer what he thought. I'm old school. I think the analytics are great. I don't mind checking with, the computer to see what things are going on. But 73 pitches in a game where you're going to be eliminated, and he's not going to pitch in Game 7 no matter what, because Game 7's the next day.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And if you can get any length out of him,
it saves the other guys.
Because they're all tired because they all have thrown the day before, basically. Whatever. Hindsight is always 20/20. It's
the Dodgers managed that series a lot better. He also had a lot more to work with. I mean, that Tampa Bay team sort of reminded me of a slightly less talented Kansas City Royals team from a couple years back when they won the World Series, where
don't remind me.
You're not going to see this team's going to probably be dismantled, and who knows if what's going to be left of it. It's one of these teams that just happened to peak and play really good ball this year.
Right.
And hopefully they stay together, because I actually think they're one of the more interesting teams in the league.
Oh, they're definitely one of them.
And they also got there by playing in an American League East, which granted was not as strong as it has been in years past, but they played the Yankees, I don't know how many times this year, and they beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they got there to the playoffs by playing in the NFC East in football.
We have.
Which, by the way, the Tampa Bay Rays are now officially in second place in the NFC East in football,
and deservedly so.
Yes.
I think they stand a good shot this weekend. As a matter of fact,
I'm picking them.
We'll get to that later in football. Right now, we just want to put this up. Beer Samurai from our beer podcast agrees with Pete. Baseball is human. And there he is.
Thank you, Samurai. Thank you. Do we want to talk? Oh, sorry. Do we want to talk about the mask?
Well, I was just going to say before we get to the masks thing, because I do want to mention that. But so the Dodgers now have won 7 World Series.
That's no small feat.
That's no small feat. And 3 of the 7 were against the Yankees.
Yeah.
So
they in the 70s and early 80s, the Dodgers and Yankees were
constantly. And the Yankees won most of those.
3-2, I think.
2-1.
Well, they won.
They won 77 and 78, and then
the Dodgers won in 81.
81, yeah.
And then both teams went into the hole for a long time.
They just and the Dodgers came out of it first, and got back in 88 and beat the A's. But as a Met fan as I am, the Mets should have won that game, although they got shut out in Game 7. 6-0.
As a Mets fan, you have.
I think
to
Ron Darling was pulled way too
realize
early in that game,
but there was an
opinion.
angel throwing darts at Bill Buckner, and they said, "Let's give these darn Mets fans a victory, please. Let's give them one."
Yeah. Well, I that's the the 2 years that stand out in my mind still as a Met fan. That the Mets really should have had 2 other World Series was '88. Was that they would have handled the?
They had a great team that year.
They had a bet. The team was better that year than they were in '86 when they won.
I agree.
And Oral Hershiser was just on fire for the Dodgers, though. He won. He pitched in like 4 or 5 of the 7 games.
He's one of the best World Series.
He got a save in one of the games. He got a win in Game 7.
Right.
But 06 too. The Mets were a better team than the Cardinals in 06. And I'm not going to get into Beltran leaving the bat on his shoulders for Wainwright and all of that, but the Mets had a better team.
Why wouldn't you get into that? That was
I'm not going to get into it now. It's a
Oh.
seminal moment, but we'll get into that at another time.
Again, though, with that Cardinals team, though, hot pitching.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hot, timely pitching, too.
Hot, timely pitching.
Was Wainwright a rookie that year? Or if he wasn't a rookie, it was like, his like second year.
I think it's his second year.
Yeah, but
he's still pitching, right?
He's still pitching, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had him on a fantasy team one of the years I won in my company's league. One year I took it might have been.
I had Loudon Wainwright the third.
Loudon Wainwright.
He's pretty good.
Sure, for a guy named Loudon.
Because this show doesn't have enough obscure references. We'll throw in Loudon Wainwright.
Well, that's our tag. The locker room. Obscure reference.
More obscure than a Dennis Miller routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He calls us for references.
Which is in itself an obscure reference.
Right.
At this point.
Of course. Well, I haven't. That would require me to be part of the world for the last 15 years.
Exactly.
All right. So let me ask this, because I saw this question today on one of the interwebs. They were talking about the Dodgers and saying, okay, well, they finally won a World Series and they've been stymied in that, but whatever it is, 7 straight division championships and this and that. Are they a dynasty, despite the fact that now they've only won the 1 World Series? Have they just been so good that we would consider them a dynasty?
Are the Bills a dynasty? Were the Denver Broncos a dynasty back in the 80s? Were the Minnesota Vikings a dynasty? No. I think you got to win.
You have to win it all to be a dynasty?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, too.
Or at least win the majority. If they win 2 out of the next 3 World Series, or 1 out of the next 2, and they're 2 out of 3, then they're a mini dynasty. Yeah. But
I would put that in it. I mean, it's kind of a weird. I mean, why do you have to use the word mini? But yeah, I would say that. I mean, the Bills.
Well, I put mini because this season was 60 games. But I mean, let's face it.
I can still look at the Bills as a dynasty. I mean, who's ever gotten to 4 Super Bowls in a row? I mean, it's the only team that has. Yeah. And so they were good. Obviously, they were good enough to get to the Super Bowl. They just didn't do the right things in the Super Bowl to win any of those games. And by all means, for all intents and purposes, they should have won the first Super Bowl. They should have beaten the Giants.
But would they still be a dynasty? When I think of dynasties, I think of the Celtics. I think of the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean,
multiple times.
You're right.
Look, the Knicks won 2 NBA championships within 3 or 4 years. 69, 71. Yeah. I don't consider them a dynasty, but I think the bar was higher back then. The Montreal Canadiens were a dynasty. The Yankees were a dynasty in the 50s, and
Islanders in the 80s.
The Islanders in the 80s. The Edmonton Oilers in the
late 80s.
In the mid 80s.
Mid and late.
Yeah.
You either got to win a couple in a row, or 3 in 5 or 6 years or something like that. Right. But there have to be championships involved, I think.
I agree. And multiple. There has to be another word for dynasty of teams who are always there and never won. And obviously the Bills and Vikings are right up there. The Utah Jazz. Sure. I mean, the Red Sox were like that forever.
The Red Sox were constantly relevant and never did it.
And I would say once the Red Sox won their first one, they are on the bubble of being considered a dynasty. I think it's
winningest. They're the World Series winningest franchise in this century.
Right.
Right now they won 4.
I think in 2 or 3 years we might look back and say the Astros are a dynasty. Mm-hmm. So I think you got to win 3 or more, or at least 2 or more in a relatively short period of time to be a dynasty. All right, 3 or more in a longer period of time.
Agreed. All right, here's my next question. Do we really call this their 7th World Series victory, or is it more like 6.5? How legitimate is this season?
Well, I mean, I don't think I think they had probably the most
obviously,
truncated season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm being facetious about that, but
right, of course.
As far as the legitimacy of this season, do we? I mean, we just go, well, it is what it is. They can only play the games they have.
No asterisk.
Or
no asterisk.
We don't need an asterisk. But do we say, yeah, they won, but it was 60 games?
You know, if the Yankees won this year, I'd still count it as number 28.
Well,
and I'm sure Tampa Bay, if they won, would not be putting an asterisk next to it. So no. I think it just made it what it was. They won under the conditions that they won. I think had the season gone longer, I still think the Dodgers probably would have been there because I think they just were built. I think they peaked at the right time. The Rays had a better record. Am I right going in? Or did
Rays had a better record?
No.
The Dodgers had the best record.
Dodgers had
the best record in baseball.
Yeah. So I mean,
and you could look at the kind of the expanded playoffs and go, well, it was a little bit more difficult than usual, so maybe that should count for something.
Yeah, there's more chances of easily getting knocked out in the early rounds, which is unlike those other teams that we considered, dynasties back. Because back in the day, you had to win your division, play in the pennant, and then the World Series. And that was all it was.
Let me pose this to you. Okay. The last World Series, if you're going to say that, if we're going to question this year's World Series victory by the Dodgers, the last World Series they won was 88. The World Series before that they won was 81. And that was in a strike shortened season. Right. There was a split season in 81. Yeah. The playoffs were all kaflooey in that year. And, it wasn't 162 games. They didn't play that. They played games in the beginning of the season. Then they were off for a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And then they played more games. So, I mean, not exactly, they played more games, but
they played more games than this.
They played more games than this, but they didn't play. I think they played 100 games. I think which is a lot more, absolutely, but it's still less than 162. So I think my point in saying this is I think, and ironically, the Dodgers won the World Series in both of those years.
They win all the time when there's less games.
When there's less games, the Dodgers win.
That's
the laziest champs ever.
Yeah, and also, that season was you could obviously going to spread the blame for a strike shortened season.
Sure.
Some goes on the players and some of the blame goes to the owners. This was really nobody's fault except for a bat that somebody ate or whatever it was that started the whole thing. So you kind of, say, well, those guys were.
When you said that, I pictured somebody eating a bat, like, it's a Louisville Slugger or.
Listen, these new stadiums, they have Shake Shack and they have all these.
It was a bat that bit a Pandalaquin or what the?
Pangolin.
Pangolin.
And then somebody ate the pangolin. Yeah,
I thought a pangolin was like a pansexual
that ate the pangolin.
penguin.
Somebody ate the pangolin.
I don't know. They got to stop serving this international cuisine at these new ballparks.
That's right.
It's like, I want a hot dog or they got fried pangolin.
Pangolin.
Do they have that? Do they have the pangolin
at the pangolin dog, like a corn pangolin?
Pangolin at the Panda Express.
Right.
Well, I just imagine like the guy coming around, right, with the old silver card.
Right.
Hey, pangolin here!
Got your pangolin here.
Give me 2.
Pangolin here.
Yeah.
That was good with beer.
Which kind of
my point in saying this is that in time, like everybody was talking about that, and obviously we were all younger then, but I mean we were old enough to remember this in 81. But everybody was talking about the fact, okay, well, are the Dodgers going to be really looked at as a World Series champion because of this strike shortened season and all this? Blah blah blah.
I was never thinking of that. I just knew the Yankees lost and was pissed. That's all.
You were, I know. You were more pissed than I was. But in any event, in time,
damn Ron,
that went away. That went away. Right. It fell by the wayside, and the Dodgers won an 81 World Series, and it moved on to the next. So I think the same thing's going to happen here. It's going to be talked about, and everybody's going to be talking about it. Are the Dodgers really a champion? Are the Dodgers really a champion? Nobody's going to say no, and eventually they're going to stop asking that question, and the Dodgers are just going to be the World Series champion from 2020. And that's really what I think. That's what's going to boil down.
I don't think in 5th grade you were sitting back going, "Hey, I really think this strike shortened season is going to put an asterisk next to this Dodgers championship."
I was. And
you probably were. I
was.
Yeah, that's
now that you think.
Let me correct myself.
You remember back that far?
I
was
two
probably.
Things I know. Number 1, the Dodgers are not the champions because of the strike, and number 2. Tony Danza's a hell of an actor.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now pass me my chocolate milk.
Yeah, I'll have my chocolate.
It was fried bologna.
which maybe brings us to fried bologna and a Twinkie chaser.
Well, you know what? If we're going to talk about fried bologna, we should probably switch gears and go down to football.
Yes.
All right. Well, just quickly, the face mask. I'll just say this. To me, that was kind of a microcosm of sort of the attitude of much of this country, that there are a lot of other things that are more important than being safe. And I certainly have no ill will towards Justin Turner or anybody. A really weird situation having to pull a guy out of a game. But, I mean, he's got a virus that's really contagious. Mm-hmm. And maybe that should be more important. I feel terrible for him. He's a warrior on that team. He's been there for years now, right? Since 2014, I think.
2014,
and
yeah. The Mets,
maybe the guy...
Andy Alderson kind of ejected him and sent him on his way.
One of the guys you maybe feel happiest for. He's finally getting his. But he's also running around potentially getting people sick with a deadly virus. And like I said, it's just kind of says, okay, well, we've got priorities here. Right. And then certain comments, I don't know if we could have stopped him from coming out. Well, you should have thought about it. He should have stopped himself. But it is what it is. Hopefully nobody gets sick and dies.
Well, that's
and no one and then no one will learn a lesson about it anyway.
And maybe if these people that were coming in closer contact with people that are wearing the chin diapers would think twice and put them over their nose, then things would be a little bit different.
Right. And the other thing is, everybody involved there should now be quarantined. Every one of his teammates, everybody on the staff, the entire other team, anyone that he came in contact with should now be quarantined. And I guarantee they won't.
No.
Because half of them just lost the World Series and the other half just won it.
Or he can hold a rally in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Let's get to the White House now within the next 2 weeks.
I heard they just changed the campaign manager, so he could be that.
He could be campaign manager.
Let's bring the Dodgers over right away.
It's the most positive White House ever.
Oh my God! All right,
well done, sir. Well done.
Well done. On that note, let's switch gears to football. I just want to say only because he's obviously trolling us right now, but Mr. Samurai Dave, he said, not for nothing, every team was subjected to the same elements. They won. Get over it. That's his take on the Dodgers.
I think we all agree with you.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
I was merely asking the question.
I
think they were.
I think he was telling you to get over it. I was thinking he was just telling everybody that was asking.
Right.
Potentially ask the question.
Yeah, like they're right. We got bigger fish to fry than
exactly.
Whether the Dodgers are legitimate champions.
I mean, the Dodgers had a lot of pressure on them because they were kind of the best team for a few years there and just couldn't win it.
Yeah, no, they were. They definitely were. All right.
So congrats to damn Dodgers.
Congrats to the Dodgers. Brooklyn's original own, now LA. 2 championships for LA in the same year, and who knows? We're going to get to football now, and we're going to talk about the Monday night game, which involved LA in a little bit. But we're going to start with the Giants. We're going to start with the Giants, and we're not going to talk, folks. We're not going to talk long about the Giants or the Jets tonight because it's basically the same conversation every week. So there's no need for it. We're going to talk about certain points and then move on. That's about it.
We could sum up the whole Giants season by just watch the clip of Daniel Jones. That sums up the Giants. It sums up 2020. It sums up the entire world in one play.
Yes, it does.
There you go.
I wish I'll post it. There was a meme I found. It was Daniel Jones's sister was spotted at a movie theater, and there was this woman that was running with popcorn and fell. So I'll have to post that, and we'll check that out. But you watch two things though, Harry. The Daniel Jones run stumble, which we're all calling it now, and also Evan Ingram, catch the damn ball. Okay, catch the ball.
Look, they made up for last week with me because they almost won again. And now they're back on track. They're just one game behind their neighbors for Trevor Lawrence, and we got a chance.
Yep.
We got a chance.
Yep. They're hanging in there. Yeah. Well, I'll just say, look, misery loves company. There's a
lot of company.
Yeah, I did dub that play the run stumble. Because it rhymes with the butt fumble. And let's face it, the butt fumble is way more embarrassing
Right.
That could be. You could easily say that's the most embarrassing play perhaps in NFL history.
I don't know.
There's been a few.
Yeah, but it's certainly up there. Worse so than the run stumble.
Right.
What I would say though is that I know they scored on that drive, right? I think they got a touchdown on the drive.
They scored.
Probably would have liked to have that extra time it took them back at the end of the game.
Sure.
Now, and again, it was a strip sack. So you go, well, it wouldn't have mattered, but maybe they would have called the first couple of plays a little bit different if they had, I don't know how much longer. I don't know how much longer it took them to get into the end zone. Another minute or something, maybe a minute and a half. I don't know.
I don't think it was quite a minute or.
Well, they all had to stop laughing.
They would have had at least another 30, 45 seconds.
But yeah, so maybe it would have run.
There wouldn't have been as much laughing.
You can't play football while you're laughing.
No,
so maybe they would have.
There's no crying in baseball. There's no laughing in football. So.
Run a couple of different plays with a little bit more time there at the end, but again, it was. So I'll kind of ask a variation of the question I had last week. Did the Jets have a better day by getting shut out than the Giants had by having an agonizing and hilarious loss?
Well, the Jets got shut out the week before. So we're talking about...
yeah. So, I mean, right.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I knew you meant.
Looking good in the first half and then getting shut out in the second half and looking terrible.
Right. Well, I think that the Giants actually came out winners this week because they both lost. And, the Giants actually... looked markedly better on the pathetic scale than the Jets did, because the Jets actually looked good in the first half. The Jets actually looked like, oh my God! And in fact, I think I texted you guys, who was this team playing the Bills in the first half, and then
we saw the second half,
and then we saw the Jets come out in the second half. But they were so horrible in the second half, so horrible. What was it? They had 4 total yards.
Yeah, it was 4.
4 yards of offense in the entire second half.
Yeah.
What other team? That has to be a record. Has to be a record.
Unless there's anyone who ever just quit at halftime.
Yeah,
we're not coming out for the
game.
It's 78-3 right now. We're not coming out for the second half. I don't think that ever happens.
Just punt on every time you get the ball back.
Yeah, just first down. We're gonna punt. If I didn't know better, and it's not that I don't know better. This is entirely possible. You'd have to say there was some of it was on purpose. I mean, how could you? There's no possible way that you could really just be that bad. And we know that they're terrible, but 4? All you got to do is one running play where the running back, who let's say is almost 6 feet tall, a couple of plays where he just falls down, just get to the line and fall down, and you'll pick up more than 4 yards.
Exactly.
It was that even every time. Truly mind-boggling.
It's unbelievable what they did. But I mean, Adam Gase gave up play calling for the first half of the for the game, but Dell Loggins was doing the play calling, and he comes out and they looked like a team. They looked like an NFL team. Finally, they looked like and the Bills had to be caught off guard. Obviously, I mean the Jets went into the locker room at halftime up, right? It was 10-6 or
10-6, yeah,
10-6, yeah. And they had to be shaking their heads like, oh, who are we playing here? What is this? What's going on? What are we doing here? And I'm sure, obviously, it had a little to do with their revisioning or the game plan of the second half. But still, the offense to come out and get 4 total yards of offense, that had to be, I think you hit the nail on the head. There had to be, Gase had to pull that back, or Chris Johnson made a phone call. Joe Douglas made a phone call and said, hey, guys, we don't want to win this game. We got the first pick locked up now. You win this game, you're all fired. That kind of thing.
I think Trevor Lawrence is going to start his master's degree right away if the Jets get the first pick. I'm not sure the Giants are much better, but look, this is a race for the prize.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but the Giants are a slightly better team than the Jets. Here's one thing I do know from watching the last couple of weeks. The AFC East is not much better than the NFC East.
No,
I think the Bills have come down to earth. The Patriots are obviously landing hard. Miami might win that division.
I was thinking that the other day.
I don't know why they're changing quarterbacks.
Yeah,
but they might win the AFC East.
That's mind-boggling that they're pulling Fitzpatrick right now. I mean, I know Tua is the future, but you're actually You could win. I mean, yeah, okay, you're looking for the future. The future's now. If you can win this division in the shape that it's in right now, the way you played, the way they played the 49ers, are you an idiot? Tua's a rookie. Let him learn behind Fitzpatrick. He's a good, serviceable quarterback. He's better than most of the quarterbacks in the league right now.
Starts to be as bad as any of the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, if he comes back down to earth or switches the switch on again or whatever.
He's arguably the best quarterback in the AFC East. Who's better?
Yeah.
You could say, though, and I think if you look kind of at his splits, if you will, this is around the time midseason where he does start to fall apart. But that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So
he's going a little further than he normally does.
Right. And so this is obviously not about winning the division. This is about an owner saying, "Hey, I want to see my new toy out on the field." And his name's Tua, and he's going to bring in more fans than Fitzpatric does. Unless he goes out.
Here's my prediction.
Unless he goes out and loses, he's more fans he's going to generate more interest.
Right.
Unless he goes out and underperforms, in which case, no one's really going to be interested when they're losing games.
The question mark I have for Tua has been can he stay healthy? What is his durability going to be? And I think he's one of those guys who's going to be hurt throughout his career. He's just built that way.
He looks a little fragile, and he had a bad injury last year.
Really bad. I mean, he's held together, but he's had both of his ACLs rewired.
Yeah. He had the same injury on both hips, right?
I know. Yeah. He's rewired his body more than I've rewired my stereo.
And they want to put him in there. It's literally not even a year yet since his injury. And they want to put him in there. You leave him out, man. Just put him aside. Let him get a couple of snaps at the end of games in garbage time where nobody's going to hit him. And
let him come in. If you start to tank, maybe get him in towards the end of the season. But I think he's one of those guys who's going to need a full training camp and just some time getting up to speed, literally, that the NFL runs at.
Right.
And Fitzpatrick, early in the year, I would have said Cam Newton, but not after the last 3 weeks. No. Fitzpatrick has been the best quarterback in the AFC East.
Cam is unbelievably bad right now.
What's his name on the Bills? But he's also come back down to earth.
He's come back down to earth. The last couple of games, Josh Allen has come back down to earth a little bit. And what's amazing is
the upside for Josh Allen is higher, I think.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's a bigger upside than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, there's a higher upside for Josh.
Well, I think even maybe for Tua. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say for Cam Newton too.
Yeah.
Just because he's 32, I think, this year. But sorry, I cut you off there, Johnny.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I mean, with all this talk, though, I mean, we're talking about, the tanking for Trevor. Last year was tanking for Tua.
Thank God they all have some T in their name.
Well, no, 2 years ago or 3 years ago was sucking for Sam. That was for the Jets, right?
Yeah,
so it was close to a T, but But in any event, the Giants, the deadline's coming up. The trade deadline's coming up. It's next Tuesday, and there's a lot of speculation going around that they're going to deal Evan Ingram. And believe me, after the last couple games with him, I'm fine with him. Get some picks, get somebody back, and get some picks. But I don't think he's going anywhere. But
what have they done with the picks lately?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. And
look at a lot of the. I watched NFL and I see all these Giant players where I'm just like, man, they really underperformed on the Giants. And then I'm looking at them on other teams, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they're going to be Pro Bowlers.
Sure.
And I mean, look, the Giants have always been good at getting rid of receivers at the right time.
Right.
But what they've also been good at is filling those holes with really good receivers.
Right.
I mean, going back to the Victor Cruz days, they've drafted really good receivers over the years. They're not doing that so much anymore. Right. And their receiving core looks
well. I'll give Slayton.
Slayton's pretty good. And what's his name? Finally caught a touchdown pass. The veteran receiver,
Sterling Shepard. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, he's been injured. He had turf toe for a while. But that brings me to this point, though. I think if they're going to deal anybody from that receiving core, it's going to be Golden Tate. Because he's got the history. He can probably generate the most interest.
But didn't he catch a touchdown?
He did. Yeah. No, I mean, but they have the younger Sterling Shepard, who's obviously the franchise guy. They got Darius Slayton, who's only his second year, so he's got another 3 years before any big payday or whatever. And Golden Tate has a bigger contract. So if they're going to look to deal somebody, and I'm not saying they're going to, but if they're going to look to deal somebody, I would think it's going to be Tate before anybody else.
Well, Tate, if I was any team in contention that was a little, he'll probably wind up going to Kansas City and catching 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
because they just keep getting assets. I
Well,
mean, who are they getting rid of for these people they're picking up? Who are they getting rid of?
He'll end up catching the lateral from Le'Veon Bell and running it in for the game-winning score. Yeah.
The thing is that these guys who get into the middle or end of their career, they're really good second and third options. They're one of the best, and that's what you need come playoff time. They just can't perform as a top option anymore on teams that don't have a second or third option. So Golden Tate, I think Evan Ingram, you could see somebody picking up. I mean, imagine the Steelers with Evan Ingram, or
I can't see Evan Ingram going to somebody else as a tight end. I mean, he's a slot wide receiver. He's not a tight end. He's not a tight end.
He's not a blocking tight end.
He's not a blocking tight end. He's a pass catching tight end. So he comes in the game. There's no fooling anybody. He comes in the game. He's catching a pass. So you might as well stick 2 people on him, and then you took that play out of the book.
Who was the last tight end who could block and catch really great? I mean, other than Kittle. I mean, who? Kelsey, is he a great blocker? Do you really think he's going to be in there to block?
But Kelsey can block, I'm saying. Probably not.
Right.
Kelsey's getting 95% of the throws. He's getting, if it's either going to Tyreek Hill or it's going to Travis Kelsey.
So,
those are the 2 targets.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they're checkdowns to the backs. But but Kelsey can block. Evan Ingram can't block. No. Evan Ingram's not blocking anybody.
Neither could anybody else that's lined up on the offensive line of the Giants.
Well, this is true. This is true. But it's not for a lack of technique. It's for a lack of size, and skill. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The other people, it's a lack of technique.
One side has better technique and skill than the other side.
This is true. And speaking of that too, the one of the Georgia coaches, I guess maybe it's the offensive coach or the line coach or whatever. He mentioned, was it Ralph Acciano? I think wrote an article on SNY. Said that he was studying some film, or he watched Andrew Thomas play, and his technique is completely not what it was in college. Like whether he's been taught horrible technique or just picked up odd stuff, he was much better in college, and he's completely using different technique. Whether he's just shell shocked from being in the NFL or what, I don't know. But he's and that tells a lot.
And sometimes you do have to adjust, because in college you're run blocking a hell of a lot more than you're pass blocking, and you're also going up against a much different defensive type of
skill
talent.
Set.
And speed and size and
sure.
There's a drop in, or I should say, when you get to the big leagues, there's a huge uptick in the talent level.
Huge uptick
of everybody on the field, not just the guy that you're facing on.
Well, within 12 seconds too, on an offensive line, there could be 3 different guys that you think you're going to be blocking once the ball is snapped.
Sure.
So it's not so much in college, although he played at Georgia, top-notch school, and but they were. He's just, again, there's something organizationally that I think is contagious. And
all right, so the Jets and the Giants stink. We know that.
Yeah.
So we've come to the same conclusion for 4 weeks in a row now.
4 weeks in a row.
Well, we've been right every time.
Every time. And Dave even said too, I'm not going to put him on the screen, but actually I'll put him on really quick. He said the Giants suck. Okay. And then he followed it up with the Jets suck harder.
Yeah.
Yes. So next time we just start with Dave. It takes 3 seconds, and we can save everyone.
Wraps everything up.
The headache of.
All right. Speaking of sucking, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, all I was going to say is that there's also been talk. You talk about the trading or whatever. There's speculation that the Jets are taking calls on Quentin Williams already. And what was he? The 3rd overall pick.
Well, they're the Jets, so everything is. Listen, I'm also hearing a surge towards, if you get the first pick, trade it and get a bunch of other picks, and they have other picks from other deals they've made.
Sure.
And build a team around Sam Darnold. He's got the skills, so blah blah blah.
Right.
Which to me is.
Wouldn't Quentin Williams be one of those pieces that
you would think that would be someone they would want to hang on to? But again,
you're going to take a flyer on somebody else that you don't know whether it's going to pan out or not. Quentin Williams is already proven he's there.
The answer to all these questions is a simple: they're the Jets.
Right.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
It is. It is.
And on that note,
blowing and sucking. I hope the Giants. I mean, God, I hope the Giants can just squeak out enough to get that first pick. What if they're tied? How do you pick the first pick if you're tied with 1 win each?
Division wins,
revolvers at 10 paces.
That'd be great. Can it be? Please, can I nominate Daniel Jones?
I think both quarterbacks should be shooting muskets.
And whoever gets shot gets. Knowing the accuracy of both, it'll take 6 shots easy.
And they gotta reload.
They're gonna need semi-automatic weapons.
They're gonna clean the barrel, put the powder in, put the ball in, tamp it down.
Let's hope Daniel Jones doesn't trip with the gun in his hand.
Oh man! Well, you know what? All of these are very, very, very important points to be made.
This is not stuff you
let us preface that we do not wish violence in reality on anyone. This is called satire and humor, or at least an attempt at it. So for all of you under the age of 40 who don't understand that, then
yes, look up on Wikipedia the definition of satire.
It's probably changed by now. It probably doesn't mean the same thing it used to.
Well, I'm gonna put your guys' pictures of all of us on there. I'll edit that page. Satire, just be
sad satire.
Exactly.
Speaking of tripping, how much can the Falcons do to cement themselves as the worstest?
Oh my God,
choking. And I don't even really want to blame Todd Gurley.
I blame Todd Gurley.
It is his fault, but he knew what he was supposed to do.
He knew what he was supposed to do. He did that before.
He has, but he was put in a very difficult position. And he I think the momentum just carried him a little too far. Yes, he blew it, but I can't put it all on him. Like, you're going to kick the field goal. Why don't you just kneel down?
10 years
why
ago.
even hand off the ball?
Why even hand off?
No, but 10 years ago,
take a knee, run the time.
You score, and then your defense stops the other team.
Right, right. I disagree with the strategy.
What? Why can any NFL team score on any other NFL team when there's less than 2 minutes left? Why is that?
Less than 2. It's a minute 4.
Yeah, less than a minute. Now it's just like, hey, give me the ball with 6 seconds left at my own 6.
And we're not talking. We're not talking. It wasn't Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, which we'll get into in a second.
No.
It was. Now Matt Stafford is a great quarterback. I'm sorry, he's a really good quarterback. He's just on a shitty team. But it's not like it was the Seahawks. It was the Lions. It was the Lions. Granted, they were playing the Falcons, but it was the Lions. They should be able. The Falcons defense, whatever state the Falcons organization is in right now, the Falcons defense should be able to hold off the Detroit Lions offense for 1 minute and 4 seconds.
And obviously, it sends the message that their coach doesn't think that's a likely possibility.
And so, if the touchdown by Gurley was a mistake, and you don't have any faith in your defense, then kick the ball back off and let him score on the kickoff.
Right.
And then get the ball back.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't. That makes more sense to me than the logic of. Granted, it would have been smarter to squat, but in today's NFL, would the Falcons have made that field goal?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good.
That's the other thing too.
They
run it down to 1 second, kick the field goal, and miss it. That would have been more apropos than what happened.
Right.
So, but
let's see other chokers. I feel bad for the Bengals.
I know Joe Burrow. Look, that's twice that they should have beat Cleveland in my estimation this year. Again, he did his job, and then you just can't stop another team at the end of the game. The Browns are kind of a conundrum. I don't really know what to think of them, but at times they can put up points.
Yeah. And without OBJ, apparently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll see if that holds up for the rest of the season.
Well, wasn't he out from the beginning of the game too, though?
Yeah.
I mean
that's too bad. I mean, that's his second major injury he's had, and
I broke an ankle and now an ACL, or he's had an ACL before. No, he hasn't an ACL before.
I don't think so.
No, just the one ACL on the ankle when he was on the Giants. But yeah, I agree. The Bengals should have won both of those games, and not the Browns. But hey, you know what? The Browns are 5-2. That's hard to believe.
Yeah, and this was just a week for that sort of thing. I mean, you had the Saints and the Panthers. That was a 3-point game. You had the Cardinals beating the Seahawks.
That was ridiculous.
You had the Steelers getting a win against the Titans, which you could.
They almost pulled the Atlanta Falcons.
They almost did. Yeah.
But at least really smart enough to be able to hold on. Yeah. But
crazy week as far as
it's a very crazy week. Why? I want to go back to Harry. Why is it ridiculous? Who is it ridiculous for? Was it ridiculous that the Cardinals played above their means, or that that Russell Wilson actually got overcooked at the end of that game.
Yeah, that's so. I just felt like that was everything went the Cardinals' way to get back into that game and win it.
It did.
Yeah,
it did. I mean, but I don't think it was like there was any bad calls or anything like that. It chipped fell the right way.
It seems like every NFL game comes down to this now, where it's just I don't know. I feel like it's too easy to score at the end of the game. They don't let them play defense enough. I feel like.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Harry. That's exactly what it is. They've taken so much of the game out of the defense's hands that the end of the game means it's not the same as it was 40 years ago.
No, if Dan Fouts and Dan Marino were playing with these rules, the Chargers and Dolphins would have averaged 73 points a game.
Yeah.
And you can say, maybe the coach doesn't have confidence in the defense. He may have confidence in the defense, but because they've been hampered so much, it's really difficult to make a defensive stand. When with one hand behind your back, if you're a defensive back or a safety,
unless you're playing the Giants or the Jets or the Cowboys.
Yeah, you've got to be playing against kind of a crappy offense to like basketball now.
No, it's not as bad. Yeah. 90s.
No, there are still a few basketball teams that play defense.
Yeah.
Very rarely, though. I would say basketball is still worse. I'll take the 90s basketball rules. Put that back, and then let whatever Lester Hayes did, let that be legal again on the defensive side, and we'll have some good football.
Bring back Stickum.
That's right.
That's what we really need.
Minus the Stickum, what I mean is that the ability to sort of just play defense. And same thing on the offensive side. Let the offense – it is impossible to be an offensive lineman in the NFL. You can call holding or some sort of infraction on any play. It is impossible to block these guys by the letter of the rules. So just let them play unless it's really egregious and it's impacting the play. Like you just see a guy tackling somebody and the runner's coming right past them.
Right.
Stop. And I actually think the NFL's done a little bit of a better job. Doesn't seem to be as many flags this year as in the past couple of years. But I just let the game be a little bit more physical, not dangerous. I agree with the hits on the quarterback and all that, right. But let them play defense and let them block and
let them play, period.
Let them play.
I totally agree with you. The one thing, and I agree with you that there have been a little bit downtick, if you will, less flags this year. But what I have seen is really quick whistles.
Yeah.
A running back gets hit. The first hit or whatever, his feet are still moving. The refs are blowing the whistle to play that.
I understand that to some degree, but yeah, let him get down.
Yeah, I mean, if he hasn't moved in 3 seconds, blow the whistle. But I mean, they're hitting that whistle the instant he stops, and his legs are still churning. They're hitting that whistle,
and that's a safety thing because those guys
get it.
When you got 6 guys around your leg, I get it, but you're right. I've noticed that too.
And then I mean, you take that and you combine that with. No helmet to helmet. That's why the forward progress stop rule. They don't want a guy standing there helpless, being held up by 2 guys trying to tackle him, and one of his guys behind him trying to push him forward, and then somebody comes flying in and takes his head off.
Right.
But you have put that helmet to helmet rule in there,
right?
So maybe you can let him try and get another yard.
I agree. There's a wide variety of that helmet to helmet rule. Like the hit on Andy Dalton was obviously should have been ejected. Yeah, no problem. But there's other plays where it's really hard to not sometimes lead with your helmet. Right. And there, if you hit and then brush off, I get it. I understand the safety that they're trying to do. These guys, we've had generations of guys with major head injuries, and I think they're starting to learn how to play. But let them play a little bit more, and let them jaw at each other with their hands a little bit more on the defensive end. The receivers have such an advantage. It's incredible.
Just one more thing on football. Some picks.
Yeah, maybe some picks.
Beaten by the coin.
Beaten by the coin.
I'm sure I'll lose to the coin.
No one wants to be beaten by the coin.
Let's take a look real quick at what happened last week. Johnny, Mr. Consistent, 3-1, remains in the lead at 18-5. Harry, you also went 3-1.
Yeah, I know, but I missed the chance to get ahead with damn Bears.
Yeah, but you did pick Tampa Bay, so
because I'm smart.
Yeah, the coin went 2-2, so one game under 500 and way back. And yours truly went 4-0.
4-0. Radio Peak
And,
4-0 last week.
Picked up a game, so one game ahead of Harry, 2 games back of Jersey Johnny, who I don't think, I think you had 1 2-2 week. And other than that, you have not had a week where you've had more than one loss.
We're not bad. We're better than most of the Fox or CBS guys.
Ironically, we are.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I'm better than Terry Bradshaw.
They pick against the spread, though, don't they?
No. They don't.
No. All right. Well, then I feel better.
Yeah.
You're better than Terry Bradshaw. I don't know how much that's saying. I know he knows a lot of
you're talking
football.
about.
It's just making me feel better for a second.
There you go.
It's like getting a like on your Instagram post.
All right, so let's look at this week's games, starting with Atlanta at Carolina.
Is that we really have to pick that game?
Yeah, we do. It's Thursday night.
We do.
What is Carolina's record? I don't even know.
11-D and I don't know.
11-D and 12-teen.
4-0.
No. They're what are they? 3-2.
Let's see.
3-3.
They are 3-4.
3-4.
And the Falcons are the ultimate
one
chokers. 1-6.
They're 1-6. Okay.
Yeah.
Carolina's winning this game.
Carolina's winning this game. All right, John likes Carolina.
I don't like either, but I'll pick Carolina.
Oh, I don't like Carolina by any means, but they're winning the game.
I'm going to pick Atlanta just for the heck of it.
I thought about it. You've got enough of a cushion there. You can do
I have a 1-game cushion over you.
That's right.
I'm going to squander it right now.
If the game was in Atlanta, I might think differently. Probably not. But
Yeah.
And the coin says heads, which means the home team. So they
Carolina.
are going with Carolina. All right, there we go. Jets and KC. I'll just put Jets for everybody.
Now, if you're going to just go with what 2020 has always delivered,
you should all pick the Jets.
Then look, if the Jets win, I'm picking Kansas City. But if the Jets win this game, it'll make my year.
If we pick well, maybe we should just alternate weeks,
right?
Picking the Jets.
Right.
And see, like, it'll be like a roulette thing. One of us maybe will, if they do win a game, one of us will
get that
pick
game.
up that game. So that's maybe something we'll
I think that Kansas City could win this game and could be sitting their starters in the second half.
I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you will see Pat Mahomes playing in the fourth quarter.
No.
You're generous. You guys
you might
are generous.
see Pat Morita playing quarterback for the Chiefs.
You're generous. They might be sitting out like the last 5 minutes of the second quarter.
Yeah.
Coin says heads. So they like KC. Coin likes KC as well. The coin is learning.
The coin's coming on.
Losing.
The coin's right on my ass. Yeah.
That's right. Losing with the Jets like the last 2 weeks is getting wise. All right. Dallas versus Philly.
Philly's
anybody?
I mean, Dallas just looks horrible.
Yeah, they lost to a football team.
They have nothing. Philly's winning.
I agree, Philly.
Man.
All right,
my 2 teams are the Jets and the Cowboys, and I can't
you
even.
usually have the Cowboys to pull you out of the gutter with the Jets.
If it ends in a tie, I'll be happy.
All right, I gotta go Philly. I don't have faith in Dallas. I just don't. Sorry. All right, let's see what the coiny says. Coiny says tails.
You do realize that Philadelphia Eagles had to really have some good luck go their way to beat the Giants. Right. But as bad as the Giants are, I think Dallas is right there.
Yeah.
Well, they got stomped by the football team.
Who's playing quarterback this week for Dallas?
Tony Romo.
Romo is a good quarterback.
They suit up. It's not
the playoffs, so they'll be fine. All right, and game 4, we only have 4 this week. Monday night, the Bucks and the Jinx. Tom Brady against the Giants once again.
2020 was ever to write a script.
I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this first. The Giants are home. Okay, let's think about these things. The Giants are home. Joe Judge knows Tom Brady. Okay. It is an NFC battle, but Joe Judge knows Tom Brady, and so does a number of the other coaches on Joe Judge's coaching staff. So with all of that factored together, I'm taking the Bucks.
I put the T for Tampa there. I am also going to take the Bucks, as I seem to remember Tom Brady. There were a couple of games he lost to the Giants. Big games.
They weren't anywhere near as small as this game is.
No, but he's not. He's the kind of guy who's going to want revenge.
When he lost to the Giants had Eli Manning in his prime with receivers and Michael Strahan playing defense.
And an offensive line.
And Chris Snee and
O'Hara, David Gill.
And Plexico Burris. Yeah.
I'll put you down for Tampa then, Harry.
Yeah. Well, I've been the Tampa guy all year long. I think they're going to Super Bowl. I hope they continue I hope they steamroll the Giants and we get closer to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. After the way they played the Packers 2 weeks ago and the way that the Seahawks played the Cardinals this past week, I'm kind of leaning towards you, Harry.
Yeah, that definitely gives more credence to that theory. All right, let's see what old Mr. Quarter says. Quarter says tails. So that would be Tampa.
That would be Tampa.
So we are all in agreement on 3 out of the 4 picks.
The coin's not taking many chances this week.
The coin,
Cowboys, that's it.
The coin went 4-0 or something, and then went 2-2, and so they're getting smart.
Right.
The coin is learning.
So even a coin could be 500 if you just don't think about your picks.
The artificial intelligence, the opposite of that.
That brings us to this week's top 10 list. Why don't you tell us about this week's top 10 list there, Mr. RadioPete?
I think we're sort of following a theme here of lousy teams, great players on lousy teams. And
currently lousy teams.
You're right. We've got to put that metaphor.
We're picking players from better eras.
We're disgusted with which happen to be our favorite teams, and so we need something good. So we're going to look back at great players from the Giants last week, and this week the New York Football Jets. This list is going to be something of an example of what happens when you put me sort of in charge of things. You get weird results.
It's a good list.
So here's number 10, a guy named Jim Turner. And you go, what a kicker. Why would you?
He was great.
He was great. 2-time AFL All-Star. Of course, part of the, I forget which year it was. Oh, the Super Bowl that they won. And that 1968 season was a great season for him. He had 34 field goals and 145 points, which were both NFL records at the time. And, he was responsible for 10 of the points in the Super Bowl win. So he was their offense there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in that era, if you having field goal kickers that were that reliable, they were playing in pretty crappy conditions on baseball fields, kicking off dirt half the time. And yeah, he was one of the old school, him and George Blanda.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 62% over the course of his career.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's 28th or 29th all time in the NFL. So, which isn't great, but still, he was great for the Jets.
There you go, number 10, Jim Turner. All right, that brings us to number 9. I'll take it. Number 9 on our list tonight is Mr. Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington played for the Jets from 2000 to 2007. He was drafted in the first round with the 18th overall pick in the 2000 draft. He was a 2-time NFL Comeback Player of the Year. Unfortunately for the Jets, one of those years was with the Dolphins. But the first one was with the Jets, and he was a 2-time NFL completion percentage leader. Again, one of them with the Dolphins. But the first time in 2002, his third year in the league, he was with the Jets. NFL passer rating leader in 2002, Heisman Trophy finalist in '99. Just a great quarterback. I mean, he was part of as you said before, Pete, when we were discussing him. It was part of that whole wow, the Jets are really on an uptick here, and they're going in the right direction. And he was big part and parcel of all of that.
Yeah, the 2002 season was a really great year for him.
Yeah,
he was a quarterback we felt really good about. And when I say we say Jets fans. And you're right, like half of the great things he did with the Dolphins. Right. The completion percentage. And listen, there were 2 times between 2001 and 2019 when the Patriots did not win the AFC East title. Mm-hmm. And 2002, Pennington and the Jets. 2008, Pennington and the Dolphins.
Yeah, this century.
Yeah, so the only
Patriots not won the division.
Yeah, the only
big part to Chad Pennington.
Yeah, and look, 82 touchdowns and 55 interceptions for his career, not bad.
Right.
And still number 3 all time on the NFL completion percentage. We loved him. All right. Number 8, great receiver, one of the best around, certainly to play for the Jets, Wesley Walker. 77 to 89. Just quick, his basic numbers: 154 games, 438 receptions, 8,306 yards, and 71 touchdowns. He was the guy that you would go to. He was the go-to guy when you needed the big play. Wesley Walker was someone that you would throw the ball to. I think he was legally blind in one eye as well.
Really?
Which nobody really knew until a few years into his career. And then everybody went, what? How could that be possible? Because, if you've ever tried to do anything sports-related with one eye closed, him and like Gordon Banks, you just kind of look at that and go, how is that possible? If you ever tried to do it, everything just looks like it's a photograph.
Maybe that's Gary Sanchez's issue.
That could be. Or he closes one right when the ball's coming in. So
very well could be.
But yeah, just a great Jet and a really good guy too. All-time beloved, Wesley Walker, number 8.
Number 7 on our list is Mr. Albert Lee Toon Jr. Al Toon. He was drafted number 10 overall in the first round of the 85 draft. He played with the Jets from 85 to 92. He was 3-time Pro Bowler, 86 through 88, 3 consecutive years. 3-time All-Pro, same years. AFC Player of the Year in 86. He was the NFL receptions leader in 88. The 86 team was amazing. And still, I think, even as a Giants fan, I think that the Jets, if they had gotten past the Browns, I think they would have beaten the Broncos that year. And it would have been a Jets and Giants Super Bowl. But yeah, that was a great team in 86. And he was a big part of that.
Yeah. And he was the guy that, great after the catch too.
Yeah.
Dancing feet, make 2-3 guys miss, maybe only pick up another 5 or 6 yards, but
super athletic.
Yeah,
and
very rarely
a big target.
And big, right. Very rarely did he get hit and immediately get tackled. And again, teaming up with Walker, those were the glory years for Jets receiving corps.
Al Toon,
at least in my lifetime. Number 6, we know him, we love him. 77 to 87. Joe Klecko, 4 times to the Pro Bowl, 2 times an All-Pro.
Big Joe Klecko.
Big Joe, part of the sack exchange, which, was part of the reason why they actually started to count sacks, was because it was not an official stat until I think it was 81.
Yeah, Lawrence really pushed the issue.
And that was a great, right. Taylor was the other real reason why they said, well, I guess we got to start doing this.
We got to start doing this, yeah.
And, he had 20 and a half sacks that year, which was...
as a defensive tackle.
As a defensive tackle, yeah. And he had to switch positions.
Right, he was getting double teamed the whole game.
And become a tackle. And he was just one of the... everybody that played against him said one of the strongest guys ever played against, one of the most intense guys.
Yeah.
But again, also a good guy, a guy with a good heart.
Yeah.
Heart and soul of the Jets, and one of the all-time greats for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Joe Klecko. Good job. Number, what are we at? Number 5, right?
Number 5.
Number 5 brings us to another member of the sack exchange, Mr. Mark Gastineau. Mark Gastineau was drafted in the second round of the 79 draft. He played with the Jets from 79 to 88. 5-time Pro Bowler, 81 to 85 consecutive years. 3-time All-Pro, 82 through 84. He was a 2-time NFL sacks leader in 83-84. In fact, he held the sack record for single season sacks until somebody that Mr. Radio Pete loves so much broke it a few years back. In any event, just an all around beast. He was a crazy good player, and he was a defensive end too, just like Strahan. So
he was a shy guy. He didn't like the spotlight.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Very conservative guy.
Now when interested in fame.
When we get to our top 10 mullets of all time, I don't know if he's going to be. He's definitely in the top 3.
He's top 3, definitely.
Yeah,
I'd say 2. I'm going to give him 2.
Definitely top mullet of football of all time. Yeah.
Top mullet.
Although I don't know, Jim McMahon had a pretty good one going there. Yeah,
he's in the top 3 with him.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you probably you could say best defensive player mullet.
Yeah.
I think you probably
defensive. We call that a DM, a defensive mullet.
Defensive mullet.
All right. So that brings us to number 4, the man with his own island, Darrelle Revis. What can you say? 07 to 2012, and then again 15 to 16. 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, the guy that nobody wanted to throw to.
Nope.
25 interceptions in his 108 games with the Jets. 10 fumble recoveries, by the way. He also had 1 sack. Well, maybe you didn't know that, but
he was on all of our lists easily. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when you talk about the great all-time defensive backs or cornerbacks in NFL history, Revis's name comes up there, and certainly, he was. I mean, there was another cornerback for the Jets by the name of Aaron Glenn, who was also quite spectacular. He was a sort of Revis before Revis was Revis, but Darrell Revis
Island, I think, at that point, right?
Yeah, kind of took it to the next level. Yeah, it was just a rock.
It was a rock.
Glen Rock. Stuck out of the water.
It was Roosevelt Island.
A couple of seagulls. So Darrell Revis, number 4.
Number 4, Darrell Revis. That brings us to number 3. Number 3 is Mr. Curtis James Martin Jr. Curtis Martin, he was drafted in the 3rd round in '95 by the New England Patriots. The coach at the time brought him with him to the New York Jets, and that was Bill Parcells. But he played the bulk of his career, and his best years were definitely with the Jets from '98 through '06. 5-time Pro Bowler. 3 of the 5 times were with the Jets. His 2-time first-team All-Pro, and that was both with the Jets in '01 and '04. Second-team All-Pro in '99. NFL rushing yards leader in '04. He was Rookie of the Year with the Patriots in '95, but just an amazing running back. Crazy. And Jets retired his number 28. So
is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he is.
That's what I thought. He's great. Yeah.
More of a Jet than a Patriot, and one of the few guys who came from somewhere else and actually remained good.
Yeah, and even better, because he didn't have much. He only had 3 years on the Pats. He was
good. He was great all those years.
Yeah. And
running backs lasted more than 3 years.
Yeah. I don't know where he is on the all-time yardage list, but he's fairly high up there, I think.
Yeah, his durability and his longevity he played a lot longer than I remembered when I looked it up.
Yeah. You want to do number 2?
Yeah. You want me to do number 2? You want to do 1 and 2?
Yeah, once you do 2, I'll do 1.
That would be number 2 on our list would be Mr. Donald Rogers Maynard. Don Maynard. Don Maynard was drafted in the 9th round, late rounds, in 1957 by the New York Giants. He only played 1 year for the Giants, then kind of went into obscurity for a year and went up to Canada and played. And then college coach got involved with the Jets and brought him to the Titans, actually, at the time, in 1960. And he was a fixture on the Jets from 60 through, Titans and the Jets, from 60 to 72. Crazy good receiver. Super Bowl champion 2000. Super Bowl champion in 65.
He played a long time.
60.
40 years. Finally, in his 40th year, he won a championship.
Absolutely. That's crazy.
He vowed to keep playing until he won.
That's right.
All right. All right. 2-time first-team All-Pro in 68 and 69. 4-time AFL All-Star, 65 and then 67, 8, and 9. AFL champion in 68, of course. Back before it was the AFL was part of the NFL. They actually won another championship and then went and played in the Super Bowl. 2-time second-team All-Pro in the AFL in 65 and 67. AFL all-time team. They retired. Jets retired his number 13. And yes, he is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yep. 11,732 yards and 88 touchdowns.
I mean, that was really
that's ridiculous. Those are ridiculous numbers.
Those Jets teams in the
11, almost
the mid-60s were great.
They were good teams. They were.
Yeah. So the Giants let him go.
The Giants let him go away. 1 year. Well, he played in the greatest game ever played.
That's right.
When the United came back and beat the Giants. In 58, I said. Sorry.
58. So, of course, that brings us to number 1. And, Harry, you want to take a guess at who it is?
I'm going to guess it's, I don't know. Could it be the butt fumble?
The butt fumble? No, it's a fur coat.
I know. It's Mark Sanchez.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, he had the fur coat and pantyhose.
Geno Smith is our number 1 Jet of all time.
The Geno Smith punch is number 12. It did almost made it. I would say that
this is so obvious for this team. Like, I think when you say the New York Jets, this person 99.9% of the time comes out, even though he hasn't played in 40 years. It's just he's synonymous with the New York Jets and always will be.
And there was a lot of, I mean, there was the brashness, right? There was the guarantee. There was the lifestyle, right? He was larger than life. He certainly didn't shy away from the spotlight. He was, he was New York, right?
Yeah.
The man about town and the commercials he did and the people that he knew, and he was really a sports celebrity.
It was, the brashness was a little different than what you think of the brashness today, because in New York at that time, you had Joe Namath, you had Walt Frazier, you had.
By the way, folks, we are talking about Joe Namath.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But but at that time, you had the Joe Namaths of the world and the Clyde Fraziers. It was a good time to be a New York sports fan.
Oh, big time.
And he was confident. He wasn't. Yeah.
And look, he made that guarantee. If they didn't win, nobody would have counted against them.
Right.
It was like, by him saying that, I think he was telling the rest of the team, hey, guys, we've got a chance to win this game. And they did.
Yeah. I'll just throw a couple of stats at you, because I don't know who I could compare him to for someone who is so revered. And again, they won one Super Bowl, 60-61-4 as a starter for the Jets. Just over 50% completion percentage. 50.
Yeah.
27,000 yards, 170 TDs, and 215 interceptions. So statistically, you would go, why is this guy? But he won the Super Bowl, and the league merged, and he, again, we talked about his charisma, and he made the guarantee. So you kind of look, and he, he threw a nice deep ball. You could say that about him too, right?
Well, and when people, not to change the subject, but when people argue whether Eli should be in the Hall of Fame, I use the Joe Namath comparison, because I think Eli's numbers were slightly better, but they won it. They won those big games. They showed up big on the biggest stage. And, back then it was, you were more of a game manager. And then after that, you had people like Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw, again, compared to today's statistics, not going to blow anybody's mind. But they were just really, really good football players.
Well, and he also brought legitimacy to the AFL, right? Which was the redheaded stepchild, right? They beat Oakland for the championship, and then beat the NFL, and sort of said, "Hey, we're here. We're just as good as you." So there's that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just an interesting case of a guy who didn't. Again, it's not going to have the stats as far as compiling the same numbers, but you'd look at him and you go, kind of an average quarterback, but he provided the biggest moment in the Jets' history, and for that, he's legendary.
Yeah, and he definitely, as you were saying, definitely was a big part and parcel of the merger.
He was the face of an entire league.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Number one, Joe Willie Namath.
What a surprise!
There you go. What a surprise. Kind of. I mean, our number ones on our list so far have been,
two lists, too obvious. Two people synonymous with both franchises, I think.
Yeah, you think of the Jets, you think of Joe Namath. You think of the Giants, you think of Lawrence Taylor. So
yeah, and I mean, we had a few more differences, I think, on our Giants lists. Our Jets lists were really pretty similar.
We're pretty close. Yeah, they were.
If I could just take 30 seconds, folks.
Sure.
I'd like to mention, because I did make a number 1A pick of all-time Jets, and that is the Learjet 75. The Learjet 75. It's been.
I think Wonder Woman's jet has to be right up there.
No, well, listen. This is the quintessential combination of performance and luxury, as far as the world of personal air transportation goes, and that's since people started making obscene amounts of money and buying their own planes. Yeah. It's the most popular model that Learjet's ever made. There's more than 11 sold since its inception in 2013, and well, you don't just show up in a Learjet 75. You arrive on the scene.
That's right.
People know that you're somebody.
You arrive in a fur coat, guaranteeing to beat the Colts.
Yeah. Yes. So if you want to get from here to there fast without having to be around other people,
right?
You get yourself a Learjet 75.
That's right.
Absolutely. There you go. Number 1A, Learjet
Number 1A,
75.
Learjet 75.
All right. Well, that brings us to this week's Old Balls.
And it ties in. I felt compelled to add this person to this week's Old Balls because he was actually on my list for top Jets of all time.
He was on my ancillary list.
Right. And he's, again, the point of Old Balls is to try to bring people that people might not necessarily know who have done pretty incredible things through their lifetime. And this week's Old Bald is a gentleman by the name of Winston Hill. Played on the Jets for quite some time, was part of that Super Bowl winning team. Some would say he might have been the most talented athlete on that team. He was a guy who was an offensive tackle who was a high school tennis champion. He made it to 8 Pro Bowls. Well, 4 were the AFL All-Stars, but he was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 4-time AFL All-Star, 3-time All-AFL, Super Bowl champion. And he was, again, one of these guys who changed the position. He was an incredibly athletic offensive tackle who not only protected Joe Namath's blindside, but he blocked for Emerson Boozer, Matt Snell, and John Riggins in his career. And he just, if you really dig into the history of the NFL, I think even Namath mentioned that he was one of the best offensive linemen and one of the best players he ever played with. And there's a lot of pictures around that time that they were winning the Super Bowl of Namath and Winston Hill together. Of course, he was an offensive lineman, so he's not going to get the spotlight. The reason why I know about him is because around the same time I moved to Denver, he moved to Denver and opened up a barbecue joint just south of Denver in the suburbs in a town that's now known as Centennial, Colorado, so just on the south suburbs of Denver. And I went in there once. I can't remember. I think I was working down in the Denver Tech Center, and I went in there with some people for lunch, and and then all of a sudden you find out who this guy is, and the fact that he's cooking barbecue for you, and he was a Super Bowl champion,
right?
And he was just one of the nicest guys. You would never know anything, other than the fact that he did have some memorabilia up and things like that. But he's one of those guys, when you think about that Jets team, there was a lot of really unsung players on that Super Bowl team. And I think he was one of them. He's one of the main reasons why they won a Super Bowl. And my humble opinion, I think he was the second best Jet, maybe the third best, definitely the most decorated. There's very few people in NFL history who make it to 8 Pro Bowls and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this week's Old Balls, he passed away about 4 years ago, which, I think he was like 74, 75 years old. But anyway, this week's Old Balls, Mr. Winston Hill, ties in with this week's top 10 as well.
Quick question. How was the food?
It was great. I mean, I didn't eat a ton of it but it was good. And it's weird. There's a couple really good barbecue joints right in that area. Kind of a strange area to have barbecue joints, but there's another place called Jabo's, who's also another great guy. Different type. Winston's was more Texas barbecue. Jabo's is a little bit more Southern barbecue, but it was good. It was really good. Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. I think it's called Winston's Barbecue or Winston's Smoke House or something like that. But it's still there. At least last time I checked. Hopefully, it's making it through these challenging times.
Winston Hill.
Winston Hill, and he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year.
He's in the Hall of Fame, yeah.
This year, he got in the 100-year team.
I think he certainly deserves. I think he certainly deserves to be, and he's a New York Jets Ring of Honor, and
he's a New York Jets Ring of Honor,
and second team all-time AFL, which I should have been first team.
He should have been first team. Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, no, Winston Hill, good old balls.
Well done.
Good old balls.
Well done. Good pick, sir.
Good old smoked balls.
That's right.
Barbecue balls.
Let's not go too far down that rabbit hole.
Smoked old balls. There you go. Well, you're in Denver, so Rocky Mountain oysters. You might want to say it. So.
That's just for the tourists who don't know what they are.
All right, folks. Well, I think that'll will wrap up this week's sports podcast. I want to thank you all for listening and watching. This is the first one of obviously many to come that we're doing completely Facebook Live. You'll be able to check out our podcast when it goes live tomorrow or Friday. Hopefully by then it'll be up. Check it out on our website, www.logaroom.com, LAGERROM.com. You can also check it out on Facebook, which you're obviously looking at this on right now anyway, and Instagram and Twitter, all at The Logar Room. And folks, if you haven't done so already, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher, and subscribe to our podcast feed. And you will always be able to catch any of our episodes. You'll never miss one of them. So, all right, folks. Well, enjoy your weekend of sports. Cross your fingers for us and our picks. We will have a good weekend as well, and we will talk to you next week, folks. Thank you very much, and take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Keep your tailgate up.